Welcome to Rock and Blues Review, where today we are talking to a thorough legend, man about town, and leader of the Figure Four band, Mike Chess. Morning, Mike.
Wow, morning legend. I don't know about that, but thank you.
I think you've earned some of those titles. People in Thorold look towards your band as one of the favorites, and you promote yourself as the Niagara's favorite party band. And I think that's well earned because you guys tailor make your show to the crowds and like no one else.
Oh, thank you. That's very kind. I think we can cut the interview here. I'm that's my head's already huge. I don't think it's fitting on the screen anymore. But that's very kind. Yeah, that's what we try to do is involve everybody and make sure it's shared experience and event, and it's so far so good. It's been lots of fun.
Yeah, so you note say 25 years, is that right?
Yeah, it's 26 this Labor Day, I believe. Our
Really?
first gig was in Thorold, Labor Day, the big bash there at Front 54 in the parking lot with bands all day and the Headstones headlining. And yeah, seems like yesterday, but yeah, 26 years ago.
Well, that was one of my questions. So it did start in Thorold. I was wondering if it grew outside and then, they welcome you home. But so how did that first gig come about then? If you were, that's a pretty big lineup.
Yeah, so the original members of the Figure Four, so Chris Burnett on drums, who is still in the band, as well as a couple of other Thorold boys, Sean Oakes and Paul Satrigno. They were playing in a band called Granny's Candy Jar, and their singer Dave Darling was heading off to university, but they had the gig lined up at Front 54, which was a pretty sweet spot, right? So they didn't want to give it up, and they were looking for a singer and at the time, I was playing drums mostly and playing in different bands, but we were all buds and jammed a couple times and decided to give it a go so that we wouldn't lose the gig. So came up with a name quickly and he took the gig and yeah, haven't looked back.
So how did that name come about?
That was actually, I think it was Paul that actually came up with Figure Four. It's it's a wrestling term, Ric Flair and the four of us, and so it just kind of it was kind of the lesser of the evils with the other, suggestions. Band names are always tricky. There's no good band names. Uh,
There's no,
Bernie wanted to call it Joe Dirt, for example. Um, my leading contender was Choo Choo and the Herky Jerky Dancers, so it could have been a lot worse.
well, it's interesting because there's a punk band and a Christian band, both named Figure Four.
Yeah, I get that a lot, especially for like corporate gigs and that sort of thing. People reach out and go, "Are you like hardcore metal?" And I looked you up, and yeah, that's not us.
I
So
was wondering if you ever got those calls.
yeah,
I don't know if those
yeah,
bands are still around. I mean, something I found searching, but I don't know if they're.
yeah. I'm not positive either. Maybe someday we'll do a show together if they are still around. That'd be kind of fun. Have
You
a
need one
couple of
more.
hours.
You need one more, so it's be the four figure fours.
Exactly. So if anybody's looking to start a band and looking for a good name, yeah,
It's for rent for the day.
that's right.
All
Yeah,
right. So,
you'd have to pay the other bands because I don't think we have the rights to it. But yeah, we just roll along.
all right. So let's talk about the current members. You mentioned
Yeah,
Chris Burnett, who Thorold Boy,
yeah,
and you.
yeah, yeah, definitely. Yeah, and the other members have been in the band for a while too. So Rob Carroll, legendary Uncle Bobby, he's played with all kinds of bands throughout the years, right? Common Language, Up Your Kilt, and of course he's been with us for almost 20 years now. So, not original member, but definitely OG. And then we have Nick Parasoto, who's like guitar wizard and just like probably the world's nicest guy and just the best guy to hang out with and play with. And he's been now with us, I think it's 3 years, something like that. I'm terrible with details, so but he's been with us a few years now, and it's great. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, I remember he was at Blues in the Battlefield just before he joined your band
Yeah,
with the Associates, right?
yes, exactly. Yeah, he was playing with them. Yeah, he's played with Country Junkies and Saturday Night Special, Leonard Skinner Band, and Renegade, and yeah, he's played with all kinds of guys and bands, and yeah, he can play everything. It's great.
So that brings up
It's a
another,
bit of a different beast, right? It's tricky to jump in because, as you know, we just take requests and it can be spanning all kinds of genres and eras and styles and whatever. So it takes a certain someone to, not only be able, but to be willing, right? To
right,
walk
right,
that high
right.
wire with us. So yeah, he's a
So
great fit.
you mentioned just taking requests. Do you have
Yeah.
a set list in mind just in case?
We don't. We haven't really done set lists since back in the day with Sean. Sean used to make set lists, and then probably my fault, but we used to deviate quite a bit from it, and it just kind of morphed into an all request thing. And it just kind of keeps it fresh and it keeps it interesting for the people that are there. And best way to find out what people are looking to hear is just to simply ask them. So yeah, and it keeps it fun for us.
Well, it's good to go, knowing that going in, because I remember we had Guitar Shorty at the Shuffle, and he sent a set list up to Gary Kendall, who was in the backup band, and they
Yeah.
rehearsed and practiced. And when he got there, he just threw it out.
Yep.
And
Here we go.
Gary spent the whole night just staring at him to see the chord changes.
Yeah, that's it. Blues and B, follow along. Here we go. Yeah.
It was kind of funny. And you mentioned, Nick being busy, and you guys have family lives and jobs.
Yeah.
Do you have time for rehearsal? Is the show the rehearsal?
So it's funny. Uncle Bobby mentioned last night at last night's show that we've had three rehearsals. So I said we should probably have a fourth. So again, it's got the round number, but I didn't even remember these. I remember the one rehearsal we had was we did a tribute night for Neil Peart just after he passed away, and so we learned a bunch of Rush songs to do a whole night of Rush, and they're tricky to wing, right? Rush is pretty intricate stuff.
Hmm.
So we did have a rehearsal for that. And then the other time was we went over to Gary Borden's house, who was a former guitarist of ours, when we did a season preview night at the First Ontario Performing Arts Center, right? We were doing a Beatles medley. We did all of Abbey Road in 8 minutes. So we had to kind of work that out, right? It was tricky. We only had a short time there to try to get in there. That was promotion for Classic Albums Live, who were coming through for Abbey Road. That was the second time. And then the third time was when James Moore was going to potentially join the band before he, went off to Ireland. But I didn't really know him at the time. And I said, well, why don't we get together and jam with him? So we got together at Bernie's place and Rob brought him over and it was like two songs in. It was like, okay, yeah, this is no problem. This is beautiful. He's great. And Bobby said, yeah, we ended up playing foosball and getting drunk the rest of the night. That was it, two songs. So those were our three rehearsals. Outside of that, it's just you do your homework at home, figure out the songs, and then on the fly, we kind of learn them together and tighten them up as we go.
Well, I was at that pack show you mentioned, and
Yeah.
you did a great job.
Oh, thank you.
But that brings up another question. Do you have to worry about, I mean, you've got, musical talent, you got expertise, you know what you're doing. You have to play those songs and they have to sound good. But then you got to adjust to these crowd requests and interjections and interactivity that you guys have. Yeah.
Yeah.
Is that tough to balance?
Um, I guess it makes it easier when you have no shame or aspirations of perfection. So, it is what it is, and most people, once they get a sense of what we're doing, they're not expecting perfection. A lot of times people come up and say, "Oh, it's kind of fun to watch you guys figure it out as you go." You can tell that it's the first time you're trying it. As long as one of the guys knows it and kind of can lead us in the right key, and I can make up a few words as we go and get through it. That's kind of the fun part, and they're there for that live experiment.
Yeah, but as I mentioned, that show was good and you sounded great. And you've had other big shows like that. So we should mention right away that you are headlining Rock and Blues in the Battlefield this year. Uh,
Yes.
you're going on just before the fireworks, so it will be a huge crowd. You've been in front of the packed crowd. You've been in front of huge crowds before, like Grape and Wine. Uh, does that affect you anymore? Is there a difference in the size of the crowd?
I get pretty excited. Yeah, I kind of, to be honest, I probably jump around a little more and, get into it. I do, like, like anybody, you feed off the energy, right? So if it's a good crowd and people are having a good time, and yeah, we definitely feed off of that. I do get some comments, whatever. Oh, you're different when there's big production and big crowd and that sort of thing. And I'm like, yeah, maybe it's just natural. I'm, just going with the flow. So when it feels good, it's sincere. We enjoy what we do, and we feed off energy of other people. So when it's happening, it's happening.
And that leads back to something you mentioned earlier about no aspirations. Now, when you started out,
Yeah.
did you have specific things in mind that you wanted to do, or was it?
So I'm not very strategic. I'm more of a go with the flow kind of guy. So even if it's against the name of chess, I'm not strategic. So I don't really have those kind of goals and aspirations. I've just been kind of as opportunity knocks, I'll go through the door, and I just like doing good things with good people, and music has always been a part of that. So this was a prime example of, oh, we need a singer. You want to, come join the band? We've got a gig. It's like, yep, let's do it. And it's just kind of led to this. So yeah, I'll just keep rolling with it as long as it's rolling.
Right. Do you have a limit in mind about the number of shows you'd like to do a year, and the maximum you'd like to do a year? Do you?
I do, and then I don't stick to it. As you mentioned before, with family and jobs, and it's always kind of a tricky balance. And but we love it, and I have a hard time saying no to things. So we end up, filling the schedule quite a bit, but try to keep the balance of life at a healthy pace.
Right. Well,
Yeah.
and you guys are always named in, among the top bands in Niagara. Always, always, whatever list comes out, you're there. Can you put your finger on why that is? Is it
Oh,
because, go
geez.
ahead.
No, I don't. I don't know. We're very lucky. Niagara's got tons of great music and musicians and bands, and we have people coming in from out of town that are pretty surprised at the music community that we have, and it's not a super competitive community, which is awesome. And I don't know if I'm just green or we hang out with the right people, but I don't find it to be super competitive. And everybody seems to support each other. And we love playing shows with other bands, right? So, when we're doing festivals or fundraisers, and there's other bands on the bill, we love that, and we like collaborating, getting guests up all the time. Like when we did the last Front 54 show and Moose and Goose show, right, a couple weeks ago, which was originally going to be after the Canada Day celebrations, July 1st. FYI, we were going to have a big after party and bring everybody from the park over to Front 54.
Hmm.
But Mike DeVita said, at the beginning of May, he said, we're going to have new tenants in, so we got to do it by the end of May. So it
Mhm.
was kind of thrown together, but it ended up being a great night. And, people from all kinds of bands that used to play at front back in the day came out. And yeah, we're collaborative people, and we feed off that too. So it's a great musical community, and we're happy to be a part of it.
Yeah. I was talking to Thomas Nelson last interview, and he mentioned a
Yeah,
lot of he mentioned a lot of the same things. He felt it was very collaborative here too. And he also, enjoyed all the other bands. And of course, he's been in a ton of bands too. And
yeah,
and he mentioned again, the wealth of talent here, and not just the homegrown, but we're starting to attract people to move here too.
yeah.
There's quite a few musicians that have moved into to the area recently.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I
Now,
remember going to see him at Joe's place, driving out to Port Colborne when I was like 16,
right,
trying to get to
we
Joe's
we
place.
we
Yeah,
talked about that.
is that right?
We got into the reminiscing a little bit, which maybe I shouldn't, but we had he started off with a trio, but then he added Joe Ingro, who was a great keyboard player who passed away young, but he was a great player, great fun.
Absolutely.
And you know, and you, we have others who still stay in touch, who still play, people like Paul Mueli who still come back and, the McDowell brothers and all these guys in the air and they're thorough guys too. And, Phil Benny and, Joe
Well, yeah,
Minicucci, all these
yeah,
thorough guys.
absolutely. Absolutely. It's great. And I mean, you really put Thorold on the map. How like you and Tim Sinnott and the Canal Bank Blues Shuffle and talk about local talent and touring talent, coming together in Thorold, that's thanks to you. So, yeah. Great job.
Well, mostly Tim, as you mentioned, but yeah, that was always a goal. We had a really good mix of local and international talent. That was always
Yeah.
conscious. And then, of course, we got invited to run the Rock and Blues in the Battlefield, and you've been there for most of those, right?
Yeah, I think so. It's been a few years now. Canada Day weekend's often pretty busy, so we've hopped around, been there whenever we can in time slot. But this year, we're looking forward to headlining it and playing. Is it Simply Queen that's playing before us?
Yeah,
That'd be
right,
cool.
right, right.
Yeah, and then ending with fireworks, which I'm assuming is kind of just our pyrotechnics rider that you're covering with that. But that's perfect. Yeah,
Well, and you were one of the first bands, you mentioned Tim Sinnott. You were one
yeah.
of the first bands to offer to come back and play. The first show back after COVID there was the, tribute to Tim. And you guys were the first ones to offer your services. Of course, you probably would have been there anyway, but that was nice.
Well, yeah, yeah. Like I said, you and Tim and most of the Thorold community have always been really good to us. So we're always happy to play there and honored to come back. And I got to say, like one of the nicest traditions, and you always give us a nice welcome and have the sandwiches backstage and all the fun stuff for us. But the mayor Terry Ugolini, he always welcomes us with "Welcome home, boys."
Yeah,
Every
yeah,
time
yeah.
we show up. And, I always love that moment. And, he does it every year, but it's a small gesture, but it means a lot to us. So, yeah, we love playing there.
Yeah, he knows his audience, and he also knows that maybe not everyone there, is maybe it's their first time. So,
Yeah.
and and he's been emceeing the shows for quite a few years too. So, or at
Yeah.
least, but let's talk about you again. You mentioned how you get
Do we have to
you,
talk about me more?
well,
Let's,
you mentioned that you get
okay.
excited. Is
Yeah.
there, is there is there still any nerves involved, or are you over that? You're still a young
There's
guy, but you've been at it 25 years.
there's always a little bit of nervous energy before you start. And really, the toughest part for any gig for us, and this is like every gig, the toughest part is what are we starting with? It's so funny. It's like none of us ever show up with, okay, we're starting with this tonight. I'm gonna surprise the guys and say, let's start with this. We always have a moment where we're looking at each other going, oh, I don't know, because we take requests. So that first one we decide on our own, that's always the toughest part of the night. And it's like, how do you get rolling here, And we kind of look at the atmosphere in the room and who we're playing and the kind of style music and but yeah, so there's always that kind of like nervous energy before you start and decide the first song. And sometimes it's, dragging yourself there because we all live busy lives and it's like, oh man, I don't feel like loading in again and setting up the PA. But once we get rolling on that first song, then that's all gone and you just kind of, you enjoy that time with music, which is, the stress reliever. So that's the part of the reason why we do it is because we sincerely get joy out of it and it's a stress relief. So yeah, sure, nerves, stress, but once you're playing, gone.
And how do you, well, first of all, do you have favorites or ones that motivated you to start music in the first place? Let's start there.
Okay. Like musical influences and
Yeah,
favorites and that sort of
yeah,
thing. Oh man, okay, so it's pretty varied. I have pretty eclectic taste.
not
My first
surprising.
concert and like my band as a teenager, preteen, and that sort of thing was actually Poison. So, um, Poison, I'll go see anytime they come to town. It still has that nostalgia factor for me. My older cousin Stan took me to that show, and I wanted to go in the mosh pit, and he's like, "You're 13. We're not going over there." But I had the best time, and I think they have a certain energy that's kind of a positive and fun and interactive thing. And maybe I pull some of that kind of positive vibe from Brett Michaels type of thing. But yeah, I like playing stuff that I can really belt out. Like I love just getting into it, right? So if I'm screaming some Zeppelin or some AC/DC or Rage Against the Machine or something with some, guts, right? That's the kind of stuff that I like doing. But yeah, we're all over the place and we like playing all kinds of things. So I have a long list of musical favorites that I won't bore you with, but it's pretty eclectic, from Willie Nelson to Weird Al, so.
But that leads right into my next question, and you kind of answered it there. And that is, how do you balance your favorites with fan favorites? But based on what you just mentioned, it meshes pretty well.
Yeah, well, and that's the nice thing about taking requests. That being said, you often get similar requests. So as much as you try to keep it fresh and new songs every show, we do get a lot of the same requests, which is great too because people have seen us perform certain songs. So for example, Bernie's mom always wants to hear Black Betty because it's got a drum solo. So anytime she's out, absolutely, we're gonna play it for her. We'll take the request and play similar songs, but that's the nice thing is that we can cover all kinds of different stuff. So as whether it's stuff we like or we don't, we still have fun with it. As long as it's not like Lady in Red or Brown Eyed Girl or something.
And what about the guitar itself? What made you pick that instrument in the first place?
Hmm. So I've always been interested in it. There's always been that allure. My dad played guitar, and so there was one around the house, and so I picked it up at a young age. And then I started taking, just air guitar, mimicking. And then I actually signed up for lessons with John Navaroli, who's
Hmm.
awesome. I'm sure
Right,
you
right,
know
right.
Mr. Navaroli. But I was like 4 or 5 at the time, and I went to a couple lessons, and he told me I have to come back when my fingers are bigger. So that was that was kind of the end of my guitar playing for a while. And then I started playing drums in grade 8 and joined a buddy's band in the conservatory so that I could be put in his band. They needed a drummer. And then playing in the band, I would just kind of pick up their guitars and try it out. And, through teenage years, I would just kind of dabble. And then when the opportunity came up to join the Granny's Candy Jar, which is now Figure Four, I just got into it more. But drums is still the most fun. I
Hmm.
wish I could play drums again, but I don't think I'd have the endurance anymore. For one or
Hmm.
two songs, I'm good, but that's the most fun. But I love singing. I love playing guitar. I get to switch up on bass or keys or whatever, spoons, whatever the case may be. It's still music and playing with good people. It's all good.
Well, if you put a keyboard on stage, you could play some Deep Purple.
Well, I don't know. I wouldn't go that far. Yeah, I think I only know one Motley Crue song and maybe Chopsticks. That's about it.
Yeah, you got
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, I did learn Freebird on keyboard within about 48 hours. We were doing a fundraiser for the Niagara Peninsula Foundation for Children with Hard Rock Hooligans,
Hmm.
and they wanted to do Freebird. And I'm like, okay, we got all these guitarists, awesome, that's covered. I'm like, we need some keys, so I learned it for that night. That was fun.
Wow. All right.
Yeah.
So tell me about the Dan Electro 57 guitar.
I'm not a gear guy. I do have the Dan Electro. That was actually an engagement gift from Claudine. So she found it in a pawn shop in Guelph where I was going to school at the time. And yeah, how do you remember the Dan Electro?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So I've got a couple of guitars that, I've really only purchased one on my own. And the others were gifts or bequeathed to me and will. So I only purchased the one and we were in Rochester at House of Guitars. Have you been to Rochester, House of Guitars?
I know, but I know of it.
Oh man, yeah, what a place. So I think our son Luke was about 3 at the time, 2 or 3, and I think we spent 3 or 4 hours in the guitar store. And I just kept coming back to that Gretsch Tennessee Rose that I play now. That's kind of my go-to guitar, and I was just like, oh man, I can't leave here without getting this. So that's really the only one that I've purchased. Otherwise, I'm not really a gear guy and buying more and more stuff. I've just, plug in and tune once in a while and let it rip.
Tune, what are you, crazy?
Yeah. Well, sometimes for, the more professional shows I'll tune and
Well, you must.
yeah.
Well, let's just talk about the pack for a minute. You were there for years and you worked with so many bands. Did it help you, on the other side of the contract per se, when you're working with these bands and working with what they want to know and what they want to do, did it help you with your business and what you should be projecting when you're looking to work?
Interesting. Yeah, I would say so. Probably more subliminally, but yeah, definitely when you look at how they present themselves and what they're looking for and what the needs are. I think that I try to provide stage plots and input lists and sizzlers and that sort of thing. So giving people the tools that I know that I needed as
Right.
marketing those bands. I try to provide for people. Here's a Google Drive with everything. Here's all our promo photos and logos and that sort of thing. So yeah, I think so. And I think just dealing with people and for the most part on the Canadian music scene, everybody's pretty easygoing. And I didn't have to deal with a lot of divas. And I think just being a kind human being, the golden rule all around still applies in whatever field you're in, right? So just seeing that that's still true in the music community because you hear kind of horror stories about divas and backstage antics and whatever, but for the most part everybody's just cool,
Yeah. Well, we,
right?
we had that too. And I tell people who ask that in 33 bands a year for 20 years at the Shuffle, we only had one who was a complete pain
Sure.
in the butt. But
Right.
that's pretty damn good. Getting back to the pack just for a second, was there anyone who just like surprised you and blew you away?
Ooh. I grew to love a lot of acts that came through there, through some of those rooms, that I hadn't seen previously. Uh, Off the top of my head, I kind of fell in love with a group from France called Samara Balouf. That was like a rockabilly version of Django Reinhardt gypsy jazz style stuff. And that was just one of those shows and bands that came out of nowhere. And credit to Debbie Slade, who was programming at the time, that brought them in. But that was kind of a pleasant surprise because on paper it didn't sound like anything I dig. But yeah, it was pretty magical night.
Yeah. Well, for me, it was Johnny Clegg. I had never heard of him. Uh,
Okay, yeah,
the show was just unbelievable, and
right on.
so sad to hear that he died like a year later. It was
Yeah.
out of the blue.
Yeah, but it was quite a gift to be able to experience that much live music and culture, right? So it's great.
Yeah, and you handled the MC duties when you had to. Is public speaking always something in your wheelhouse?
I have no idea. I suppose again that was just hey, you want to go do an introduction? Yeah, sure, of course, yeah. And then I think I just yeah, and no plans, just speak from the heart.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
that works. That works best most of the time. So I guess we better talk a little bit more about the show. So Canada Day, uh, Battle of Beaver Dams Park. It's July 1st, 8 to 10, and you guys are going to take the stage right after Simply Queen and before fireworks.
Yeah. And one thing that I was thinking about doing, and you tell me if I should do this or not. So when you were asking about set lists, and we normally do requests, I was trying to think of an all Canadian set for that day. So I started making a playlist in Spotify, which is like over 100 songs of Canadian songs that we know. So I was thinking about putting that out to social media and taking requests in advance from that list and seeing if we can pull together maybe a list. And I'll still take some on the fly, but I was thinking about so we'd have a little bit of a guideline. I want to make sure we get like Rush and Triumph and some of the fun ones in there, right?
Right.
But if there's anything Canadian, requests that you have,
Sure. Pat Travers.
okay. So we're not taking requests that day. So forget the whole idea. Never mind. Yeah,
Well,
so I think we're gonna do something fun like that, and I'm gonna have to add Pat Travers to that list now. But yeah,
seriously, I think he's so underrated. He's so amazing. He could take the stage with anybody in the world, and Canada seems to ignore him. So, you guys got any plans this summer that are different?
yeah, we've got lots of gigs as usual, but yeah, different. We are doing a cottage tour this summer, doing a couple of cottage parties, and then we're also going out west for about a week. We've got 4 gigs out in Alberta. A buddy of ours that used to come see us back in the day, over 20 years ago at the Pepper, has since hired us for a bunch of like golf tournament gigs. So we used to play like the Wendell Clark and Jason Spezza gig, and now he's out in Alberta at Windermere Golf and Country Club, and we're playing out there at Windermere and Belvedere and all these deers.
Well, that'll be different. And do you
Yeah,
golf? Do you golf yourself?
I have golfed. I go out probably twice a year, and with Father's Day and the odd fundraising tournament, that's about it. But yeah, should be a good time anyway.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're probably on a tour like that, you're probably better off not golfing so you can do other touristy things.
Yeah, maybe, but I think we'll probably get out there. But
Yeah.
and then yeah, lots of other gigs in the summer. All the festivals. Of course, Canada Day is the big one, and then we're doing Rib Stock and we're doing Rib Fest, and Grape and Wine is always a marathon, and Labor Day in Merton, and the usual spots, Pelham Summerfest and Port Weller Picnic, and yeah, all kinds of fun stuff.
And do you like the outdoors?
I do, except I do have allergies. So this time of year, it's a little tricky. And it's, to take an allergy pill doesn't have a great effect on the voice, even if it clears your head. So, yeah, it can be tricky, but I love playing outdoor gigs. Absolutely.
But it must be tougher because it's more intimate in the room when people are giving you requests. It's much, much easier in a smaller room.
Well, yeah, it's easier, but it doesn't stop us from doing it. Like well, I mean, even when we're on a parade float, we'll take requests on the fly as we're going down, on a parade float. So we make it work somehow.
And do you have a favorite venue, indoors or outdoors?
Nah, I don't think so. But we've we play a lot of the same places every year, as well as like on a regular basis. So we have kind of our home bases in the city. We've got a couple places in St. Catharines and Niagara Falls, and that are regular spots of ours. Two places that we play monthly, Cat's Caboose. We've been doing the first Friday of every month for I don't know how many years now, but they've always been great to us. And we're out there for Grape and Wine as well, out in the parking lot. We're going to be headlining that night too. So yeah.
And you take part in a lot of community-oriented events. Is it something that comes your way, or do you need to plan?
It's a bit of both. Like I said, where I have a hard time saying no, often we'll get approached for fundraisers, and we'll do what we can to help out and make it work. And sometimes, we'll organize our own for different charities. And over COVID, we were doing streaming events, and just pick a charity and donate there, and we'll play kind of thing. We do our big one for St. Patrick's Day. Around St. Patrick's Day, we do the Shenanigans show in Merton for the Children's Foundation. But yeah, so it's a bit of a hybrid, whether we're organizing it or someone else is organizing it. But essentially, the rationale behind it is instead of, playing at just bars all the time or corporate events or whatever, it's just like, okay, well, why don't we get a room? Everybody throw in, your couple bucks each, and then we'll give it to charity, and we'll have a party and have cheap drinks and make a night out of it, right? So, and they've worked out pretty well. Like we've had some great nights, so it just shakes it up a little bit.
Yeah, and I guess that helps you stay connected too. I mean, not that you need any help, but I mean, you mentioned, working with other artists, working with other people in the area. It always
Mhm.
seems to work out, and that's a natural fit when you have those kind of events.
Yeah, I think so. And I think it just falls well within the philosophy of do good things with good people and see where it goes, right? So,
I think that's best.
yeah, like this, doing good interviews with good people. I appreciate this, man.
All right,
Good
thanks.
chat. Yeah.
All right, so we better say goodbye because I see the clock ticking down here. So I will
Okay.
thank you so much for doing this and wish you all the best. And certainly, you're going to have a great time in battle.
Absolutely. Yeah. Looking forward to it as always. Should be fun.
All right,
Appreciate it.
thanks, Mike. Take care.
You too.